how can the CDO really be an enabler while still influencing and ensuring data governance and frankly, like data guardrails are still in place?
Yes, so I love that question, Eric, and I tell you why, because I'm always in discussions around where people may have the impression that governance is an inhibitor.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing it right, it's the exact opposite. And let me explain. Governance takes a couple of dimensions, right? There's the governance of just the best practice of building the data. So think about, building a house. There's, rules and regulations I have to apply to make sure the house is sound and, the beams are thick enough and all of that, right? But then there's the governance of the use of that property, right? And who can get at that property and who can't. If data governance, and it's funny because some firms have even decided to get away from the word data governance and just call it, data best use or something, whatever they're coming up with alternative names. But if it's implemented properly, what in effect you're doing is enabling critical data to the right individual, right? So you're the things I talked about at the beginning about protection and privacy, you're assured that that's happening. But at the same time now, if I'm a person in the line of business that needs a particular piece of information about someone's financial history or whatever it might be, proper governance now enables me to get at that data seamlessly and with trust, right? And that's the flip of the coin. When I hear people saying they're concerned about governance being, an inhibitor or overreaching, it can be if implemented incorrectly. If I may, Eric, I'll share a quick story.
Yeah.
I was working with, and I'll mention the firm, it was Charles Schwab. I was working with Charles Schwab and their chief data officer, and he was implementing his data program. And what he did very effectively was he went out to his lines of business and his stakeholders, and he emphasized the benefits of good hygiene and data management. And he demonstrated the benefits that would bring. And he even did a couple of small POCs along the way, proof of concepts that if you do this, you'll get better access to your customers and better access to their histories and so forth and so on. Unbeknownst to them, on the side, he's building his data governance infrastructure, right? Never shared that really with the business people in the beginning. 2-3 months down the road, he's now convinced the businesses and the stakeholders that this is the right way to go. And he says, by the way, we have to put rules around this. And literally their answer was, oh, well, of course you have to put rules around this. Why are you even mentioning that to us? Very different if he started with, I'm the new chief data officer and I'm going to impose a bunch of rules on you. They would have thrown him out of the room.
Right.
So there, I think, is a really good example of how to do data governance wrong, if you did it that way, versus doing it properly and having the right features implemented so that it enables the business to get their job done and then to do more.
It's obviously, for anyone that's taking on sort of the CDO role in general, what sort of experience or outlook, really does a CDO in general need these days in order to be successful?
Probably the easy answer is to say it has to be a jack of all trades, but that's too easy an answer. So
Right.
let me get a little more specific. I think number one, the CDO absolutely has to be a visionary and a cheerleader. Even though data management is now becoming a little bit more entrenched in organizations, there's still the aspect of change agent, right? You're going in and you're going to change the way people are comfortable doing things. And that, first and foremost, I believe is one of the key skills that a chief data officer has to have, is that ability to go into a line of business, go into an operations team and say, well, we're going to do things a little bit differently, but here's why, here's the benefits and the opportunities that'll be achieved. Clearly, they have to be tech savvy. They have to be business savvy. And again, I've seen this through my own career. The chief data officer doesn't necessarily have to be a tech expert, but they have to be a good partner with technology. Right? I had the good fortune back my first role at Citi, the CTO, he and I were, literally two peas in the pod kind of thing. And literally we went to every line of business together. People almost couldn't tell us apart, in terms of, what department do you work to or this, because we were functioning in a way to bring benefit to the business. Now, it didn't mean that we didn't go back to my office or his office and close the door and yell at each other and, have debates, right? But we would, finish every debate with, let's go have lunch together. There was never an adversarial kind of situation there, right? So being tech savvy, having good partnership with technology, and because, you asked earlier about how it's changed, now it isn't just tech you have to be partners with. You have to be partners with compliance, with info security, with operations teams, your acquisition teams. So many different either C-suite or control functions you have to be partnered with. And I like to explain to people that the picture of the ideal CDO is a desk with an empty chair, meaning they're out of the office, right? They're out talking to people and working with people. That's probably one of the most important things. And lastly, of course, is you have to be very good in enabling collaboration. Because like we said before, data is so systemic that, the old story, one weak link in the chain and it falls apart, right? So as information flows through the organization, you have to really be able to bring people together, some who've never had to do that before, and emphasize the importance of their role in that process, and making that adjustment on that, that sales slip has ramifications downstream if not done right. So being able to bring that collaboration across all of those stakeholders.